Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Mary D Show. I'm so glad you made it today. I know that, I don't know about you, but Southern California is hot. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's a beautiful Monday, but it's between 90 and 100 now, almost every day. But that's the norm for us in the summer. That's normal. And when you get days under 100, you feel like it's cool. But anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mary D. Welch. I am the host of the Mary D. Show, and you're here to have a very interesting conversation with us today because we have a wonderful guest. But before we get started, I'd like to thank you, our live viewers, and thank you, our replay viewers. I also would like to thank our sponsors for today's show. And today's sponsors are the Idea Club. The president is Dumas Martin Jr. If you like to get your 501c3, if you're looking to get an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation, or if you like to get an S Corp or a C Corp, you want to go to the Idea Club and talk to Dumas. He is intellectual property. That's the man to go to. If you are looking to travel, you can go to First Book Academy. I'm sorry, I'm getting the wrong one. You can go to First Fridays Travel. Go to First Fridays Travel. You're looking to travel and travel. Instead of paying retail, pay wholesale at First Fridays Travel. If you're looking to write a book, that's what now. If you're looking to write a book, you will go to First Book Academy. You may say, why do you want to go to First Book Academy? Let's say you have an idea for a book, you just haven't got started for whatever the reason. I always say the hardest part is to start. But I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you want to write that book. It is such a feeling of accomplishment to write your book. So definitely go to First Book Academy and you make an appointment and write the book. I make it sound really simple. Believe me, it's easier than you can imagine. So you can definitely go and write the first book very simply. Also, you have the Henderson Real Estate Team.info if you're looking to buy or sell your property. The Henderson Real Estate Team.info. You want to contact them because they are, in the IE, the premier real estate team. Husband and wife, they can help you whatever your needs are. You want to go there. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, um, if you are looking, let's say you would like e-blast or text blast, you can go to marydwelch.com and you can, if you're interested in advertising your company, advertising an event, sending out flyer, goes out to thousands in the IE and believe it or not, across the country. It's amazing how people across the country watch and see what we're doing in the IE. And then they start different activities in their communities. So we're making an impact. I know it may not seem like it to you, but I know we make an impact. So, be that as it may, today we have this is a different show today. If those of you know, you've been here with me, very rarely do I get political. That's rare. But this has really, I think, touched something inside of me. And I'm going to introduce our guest that's here today because she's lived what we're talking about, but I'm going to just go over some things I wanted to let you know or to go over with you. On January 6th, this country changed. It changed. It may not be a change you can see, it's a change you can feel, but it is definitely a change. And why I wanted to have the show today is, what does January 6th mean to you? And I even have people, and I'll talk to you about it when Dr. Henry comes on. She's our special guest for today. I've had people call and say, Mary, aren't you scared? Aren't you afraid to do the show? Is the FBI going to be following you? I mean, this is real. This is and I'm just sitting here going, this is why people don't talk. And these are the reasons why we are where we are. It's because people don't speak up. But we'll talk more about that when Dr. Henry comes on. So I'm going to bring our illustrious guest. This is Dr. Mildred Dalton Henry. I think I missed one of the names, but Dr. Henry. And she is a published author, which I'm very, very proud of her for. She's had her book published. She'll even show it to you. And she's an activist in the community. Dr. Henry is the founder of the PAL Center and the PAL Charter School. I want to say it wrong, the PAL Charter. It's a school in San Bernardino. This lady, I have so much respect for and admiration. She never knew this, but I was kind of following her and watching her from the sidelines, but she didn't know that for years. But this lady is a powerhouse, ladies and gentlemen. I want to introduce to you our one and only Dr. Henry. Dr. Henry, how are you?
I am blessed. I am blessed. How are you? I see you're doing fine.
I take one day at a time, Dr. That's what I do, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
Music has that just every time I get excited about something, I think of music and where it brought us from. There's always a song to fit every thought. And as you were saying, one day at a time, I thought about the song. But
Right, right.
songs for
One day
Jesus.
at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
have a couple of our guests here that Sheila, she says, good evening. Hi, Sheila.
Sheila.
And I tell you, thank you, Sheila. Sheila is a very strong supporter of the show. I thank you for being here, Sheila, because she really I think she sets her clock to the Mary D show. So thank you, Sheila. We're always glad to see you. And we also have a comment from Richard. He goes, Richard Nichols says, hi, Mary. Hi, Richard. I know you meant to say hi. You probably didn't know who Dr. That's what it was. You hadn't come on yet, Dr. Henry, so he couldn't put your name up there. But
Oh,
Richard,
no,
he'll say hi to both
no problem.
for sure. But I would say, Dr. Henry, before we even get started with our comment, I want to make sure we get this time to put, because as I said before, you are a published author, and I want you to just kind of show the cover of your book, your new book that's out, because it's really fabulous, ladies. Let's see it. Ooh, is that the hardback cover, Dr. Henry?
It's the hardback.
Ooh, I have your paperback.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know.
that's the hardback. From the ashes I rise.
All right, ladies and
Dare to
gentlemen.
do the impossible.
Make sure you get a copy. I mean, when I tell you that book is a legacy, it is a legacy because there's so much history in her book. So much history.
And let me lift it up so you can see the gin, which is important. The old cotton gin, the store, um, from way back in the 1930s and 1910 and up. So it's these pictures, and this is a history that created the background for my doing the book
Right.
because it's history that needs to be known.
And that is a really nice hardback, Dr. Henry.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I know too, you are a wealth of knowledge about what's going on in the community. You have a history of this country that you can't just speak about. You've lived this history. Well, January 6th came and went. What did that day mean to you, Dr. Henry?
That was a day in infamy, a day that I could not believe that I was spellbound to see that our country was reacting in that manner. I thought I was in a third world country or in Nazi Germany even. One of those countries. That was what came to my mind as I watched Washington D.C., our capital, explode as it did. I couldn't believe that people were reacting like that. I didn't know if they were animals or humans. I mean, it shocked me. I couldn't speak. I was just spellbound.
I agree. I think I'll be, which I'm sure a lot of African Americans have felt this, that had it been us, they would have shot.
Would have killed us. I thought back to slavery days, even
Mhm.
when the master wanted to make sure that slaves knew you do not react, you do not try to escape or react in a manner, in that manner. You can't come up with an insurrection. Um, you cannot be an insurgent. You cannot protest. You have to be docile. And they would hang my people, would lynch you from the tree so that the other slaves could see what happens if you try to escape or try to become a man. You're not to become a man. So anyway, the only way to strike fear was through violence. And that's what I thought that
Mhm.
day. That the idea was to strike fear. to make these false allegations, completely false allegations, and then make the populace afraid to speak up because they were being intimidated.
Right.
Hmm.
It
But
was it was hard to even look
it
at that. I mean, it was. Watching it, and it was hard.
it was it
It
was.
was like, what? I kept thinking,
Where am I?
not I'm not where I'm. What if? Okay, let's just be honest. What if they have? What if they had won? What if they had taken over the capital? What would that have meant to this country?
We would have no country. My feeling, and that's all I can speak to. My feeling was that if they were able to take over that capital, we would be back like we were in World War II. We would be under the auspices of another country because it's not that the present ex-president could run this country. He was being controlled by outside forces.
Mhm.
That was my thought,
Right.
and I'm entitled to my thinking.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
those were the thoughts that I had, is that we would no longer have an America. We would no longer have a country. We would now be subservient to some other country.
Wow. I kept thinking, if they say they took over the capital, I kept saying, okay, now what? Listen,
Mm,
and I'm thinking, if they had succeeded, now what?
mhm.
Now what? You have the control of that. You not there's so many arms. There's so many outlets to that one entity. So they're not controlling each of those. I mean, you're not controlling the treasury. You're not control. There's so many different things. So how do you? I just didn't. I just kept thinking. So what next? If they had, and then I mean, when I saw the nooses hanging from, they had built like a galleys and had nooses. I was like, what is going on here?
Pre-Civil War, back in the dark ages, the way to dispute something is to create violence. And I was thinking, I know this is supposed to be a panel discussion, so I don't know.
Whoa, I didn't even talk about that. Uh, the email was sent out, ladies and gentlemen, to thousands, inviting them to. I'm
That's
not kidding.
important. Mhm.
It's very important. And like as I mentioned when I started the show, I was warned by friends that I shouldn't do this show. I was warned that, Mary, the FBI is going to be looking at you if you do the show. And what I told them, they're already looking at me.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so they said, well, how do you know that? I said, believe me, when you have an email list of thousands of people, that is already, you like it or not, there's a voice.
Mhm,
And my voice has been very mild to this, except for this show.
mhm.
This show, because we have grandchildren. They watch that. What does that mean to them? As what does that say? Is this what you do when you don't like it? You take over you go in and you take over.
You take over. Violence. That's the solution to anything. You don't like it, create some violence. I don't like you. I'm just gonna kill you. That's why we got so much killing and horrific things going on now. Because somewhere in our mindset, somewhere in our history,
Mhm.
we're saying by our actions that it's okay to if you don't like it, create some violence rather than sit down at the table and let's negotiate. Let's talk
Wow.
about it. Let's talk out our problems.
So
Um,
where do we go from here, though? Even though right now they're going through the hearings. I was just in a meeting earlier, and it was, if the House turns, they think all of this is going to go away. If the House becomes Republican, they're not going to go forward with this.
no, no.
So we have to get out and vote again. And people, they get complacent, and you think it's my vote doesn't count, and it does. Or what difference does my vote make? It makes a huge difference.
That's why, to my way of thinking, this whole thing erupted because people like me, they didn't count on the way I was going to vote. The other side, I don't get political. I don't want to be calling party names, but anyway, the ones oh, I got to do it in order to explain myself. Those that were favoring Trump, that ran these what do you call them, polls. They call you and they count your vote and all this stuff.
Hmm.
They couldn't count my vote because I didn't say who I was going to vote for.
Okay.
That's no, I don't go into these polls. I don't take these polls.
Right.
But when it comes time to vote, I'm going to make sure my ballot is in the box. I've taken it to the ballot station to make sure the postman didn't take it,
Right.
somebody over here didn't get it, that my
Mhm.
vote is counted. There
Right.
were other people like me whose vote was counted that day of the election that they didn't count on. They thought they had the votes locked up.
Right.
No, we're out here and we're determined to vote because we remember when
Right.
my people died in order to vote.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
will vote every election. I've never missed one and never intend to, long as I can get there. If I have to crawl, I will vote
I
because
you me too.
blood has been spilled. And that's what I think. They didn't count on my vote and people like me. So there was a legitimate election. Our
Right.
votes were legitimate, but they can't take it, couldn't understand it, and didn't want to learn. They didn't want me to tell them why.
Well, you think about the difference between the two candidates. I believe it was less than 10,000 votes that made that
Yeah.
Biden won by. It wasn't a lot. It's not a, and I was actually thinking this one day. I said it really was equal to like Riverside County or something. It was that small, but it took all the millions of people that came out to vote,
Hmm.
and but it really showed the divide in this country. The country is divided. There's no doubt about it.
It's divided. What
Mhm.
amazes me, I wrote a section in my book and I called it "The Earthquake That Shook America." The earthquake that shook America, and that was the election of Donald Trump.
Right.
That was an earthquake. It was something that never would have thought would have happened. But the country, as you say, has been so divided. There's so many people that are not looking through to the end. They see something they're dissatisfied with, and they'll take that, hone in on that one area
Mhm.
and create division.
Right.
We look at some of those, not we, those people looked at Donald Trump. Oh,
Mhm.
he's got money. I've heard them say it. He's got money, and they think maybe they can get some. He's gonna make them rich. I don't know what they think,
I don't either.
you know, but they didn't see where he got his money from. They didn't look at the background. They didn't look at the family background to see how American that family actually is, the father, and the whole 9 yards. Do the research. They didn't do the research.
This is David Addington. Hi, David.
Hi, David. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Look forward to this talk. I have ordered Mildred's book through Amazon. Thank you, David. David is such a supporter too. We appreciate you, David. David's here at every show. I can tell.
Super.
I know. I know. Well, I
Super.
can tell you. I'm as this time. I know now the hearings are going on.
Hmm.
Have you been watching them? You watched the
Yes.
first one?
Yes, I had. I watched that first one. I was glued on that first one. And I was just saying, when I saw Chairman Thompson, I said, Mississippi. I'm wondering how in depth he's going to get. They're going to get into it. I was so proud of the way he conducted the hearings
Yes.
and so on. And
Yes.
today, yes, I feel I must see the hearings. I must see what the committee came up with, and hopefully they can come up with some truths that they can show people what really happened.
Right. Right.
Enough to change some minds. I think some people are still stuck on, I don't know where their minds are. I just don't.
Well, I know too. This is how I feel about changing people's minds. This is what I don't even know if I heard this or whatever, but my observation. Once you have made your mind up, it is almost literally impossible to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't can't remember if someone said that to me or I just made it up, but And that goes for all of us. I don't care
Yeah,
what the situation is or whatever.
yeah.
Is it can happen, but
Uh-huh.
it takes a lot to bring you even to a neutral point
Mhm,
once you've decided that this is how you're going to think.
mhm.
And I don't know what the answer to that is. I honestly don't know, but I know people who are, and I don't, and this is how what I had to learn too. Everybody has a right to believe and to think
Mm,
whatever they want to think, as
absolutely.
long as you're not hurting anyone else.
There you
But
go.
on January 6th, people died.
Mhm,
People died defending the Capitol,
mhm.
and people died since then. I forget how many of the Capitol Police committed suicide because it was like looking in a mirror, looking at themselves, and couldn't believe that this was even going on.
Yes.
They couldn't believe it had come to this.
Mhm.
And all of this loss of life. When I heard the lady witness, I mean, give her testimony, I was sitting there, I was getting choked up.
The police lady,
Mhm.
yes, how she was slipping in the blood
In
of
the blood of
that.
her fellow officers
Yes, yes,
and sprayed with, I think it was bear spray and stuff. They was, in their eyes.
yes,
And
yes.
so people came with intent to hurt.
She hurt. Inhuman. Just the inhumanity of the whole thing is amazing. It was just amazing, you know. So, yeah, what I'm really interested in, Mary, and I think it's important to bring this out.
Okay.
We touched on it, but you sent out thousands of invitations
I did.
for to be a panelist.
I did.
And to be honest with you, I was not going to be one. I mean, it was just I thought, oh well, there'll be so many. I wouldn't get on. Then I thought, I am going to take the opportunity to make my thoughts known. And if I thought it was important enough to put in my book, then
Yes.
it's important enough for me to speak on the issue. And I thought, so I at first was not going to be on the panel. I would be available, but there was no need to be on the panel. I thought. I am really shocked that people are not speaking up. They're
And
just,
as Dr. Henry, what I mentioned to you, I think I was too. I've talked to so many people. They all have opinions, but
uh-huh,
when I sent them the email out and it said we're going to be live on Monday and
uh-huh.
express your opinion, and for people not to, they didn't even have to come on. They could have just been where we could have heard them speak or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Uh-huh. That
I
was my
think honestly, if I be honest, I was shocked. And then I got a call, like I said, when once the email went out. So that when I got the call that said, "Are you afraid?" That told me right there why
that
people
it
didn't
was.
sign up.
Wow.
They're afraid. They're afraid. And I probably need to be afraid because she told me, she said, "Mary, if I was you, I'd be afraid to talk on that." I said, "Why would I be? What is that? What am I afraid? Am I afraid that I'm praying nothing happens to me or my family? I don't know, but
Yeah.
we don't. I guess that's the fear that nobody is willing to say anything.
And
They
if you don't speak up, then
it's
for
gonna happen again.
sure it's going to happen
It's gonna
again.
happen again.
Hmm.
And I did that. I do know. And I said, well, all I can do is put it out there and give people an opportunity. And what they'll do, they'll talk quietly to themselves or to their I don't know, but they will not say anything publicly.
But how many will look into the background of that former president? Because if we aren't careful, he will be back in that office. And God forbid that he gets
Oh
elected
my
again.
God.
He took some of that money, and that was proven today in today's ceremony. That he took some of that money that was supposedly going to the cause, and going to be using it for reelection, you know, um, and
Mhm.
illegally raising money. There's so many things that have happened that I cannot believe that people are just being quiet about,
Because
still endorsing him.
no,
I just can't
I,
understand it.
I think people are afraid for their own lives. That's what it is, Dr. Henry. They're afraid that they're gonna either them or their family's gonna get killed or something. I really do, because that's the fear of this has now become I don't even want to say what it's become. It's like
Okay,
the
okay.
fear is, let me just say, the fear is real. That
Uh-huh.
that one lady, what's her name, Stormy Daniels.
Yeah,
The lady,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
She mentioned it. She said someone came to her and said, "You say another word, your daughter will be killed." This was a and she said some guy, you know. So there now it's this is real. This is not a joke. So it's come to that now people are like they see what's going up. They're not. I'm not willing to say anything because I don't want something to happen to me and my family. And I don't
Mhm.
want anything to happen to me and my family either. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
I know either. Yeah. But heaven forbid that we go back instead of forward. And that's enough said to get the idea. Heaven forbid that we have another go backward instead of moving forward.
Yeah,
We can
it's
have another 4 years that we just ended with the previous administration, because then it's almost like giving a license
hmm
to, okay, go ahead, go forward. You got the vote, you got the people behind you. And then other countries, oh well, I don't want to predict, but it's fearful. I'm afraid. Let me put it that way, of what may happen if we continue on the path that we're going. If another one happens, I'm everybody makes, and they make, not everybody, but there are people that make a joke and say, "Well, I'll just move to Canada." Say Canada doesn't want us. Oh, I'll go to Mexico. How you gonna go to Mexico? Who wants you down there? We better try to save our country. We
right.
better try to save it right here.
Well, one thing I know, like it's about we're talking about America. Number one, the history of America is violence.
Yes.
That's how we became. That's where we have the American Revolution. We can even go back even further than that. But the American Revolution is how we uh, received our independence from England. Then we turned around and fought ourselves, which was the bloodiest battle of all, the Civil War. We've had the Mexican American War. There's been so much as far as bloodshed on this in this country, but to come to where it's a peacetime. That was a peacetime. There was no war. There was no war saying we're gonna, be ready for war at the Capitol. It wasn't like that. A
True.
peacetime event um, has made everyone on edge. I think.
Hmm.
I think it really has. It's made this country on edge. It's made us. All of this has made me, and I'm a retired history teacher. Look at all of this.
I
I can't even describe the feelings of this because it's just something that it shifted this country. It shifted
hmm
in a way that I never thought I would see. The only thing that rules this country is the rule of law. That's it.
And where is the law? What is
Well,
the law?
that is it because everybody doesn't. It used to be church and law, but everybody does not attend church anymore. The church has not.
True.
It was not. It's nothing against church, but the powerhouse as it was to rule was
Hmm.
very strong. And I don't,
Hmm.
not that it isn't strong, but I think it has gone down considerably. And I would say due to COVID, it has affected it. But law continues. And if we don't have that, what do we have? We have anarchy.
When we, as a child or in younger years,
Hmm
the church was the background. We didn't just learn in our school buildings, schoolhouses, we would call it. The church was a teaching place. We had to learn poems. We had to recite poetry. We had to learn about people, and that was part of our learning experience.
hmm
And so now with the decline, which is actually happening, the decline of the influence of the churches, we're losing a lot as far as teaching our future generations. We learn how to speak and how to perform on the stage.
Right.
We don't do that.
That's
I'm afraid I don't Sunday school. I had to go to Sunday school. Had to go back. If you wanted to go to the movie on Saturday, Sunday afternoon, you
yep.
had to be back in time to go to BTU, the Baptist Youth Fellowship, or
Right.
Methodist Youth Fellowship. You had to go to school, had to go to church in the evening. So you got that training. We
Right.
just had it. Our teachers were our superintendents and our leaders in church, you know. So we got this training that we're not getting now. I I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
That,
sorry.
that's that this that tribe. That's what it was. That was a tribe. We didn't call it that. That
Hmm.
communal where you were taught. It wasn't just up to your parents. The community did it,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
that is definitely without a doubt where it's missing. We have comments. I'm gonna go to a few of our comments today, and this is from Gwen. Hi, Mary, and hi, Mildred. I tuned in late. What's the name of the book? So she wants your book.
The name of the book is From the Ashes I Rise, Dare to Do the Impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. From the Ashes I Rise. And that has to do with my family's history, the cotton gin. My grandfather, who was the son of a slave, came when he bought his freedom. He came up the river, Arkansas, Mississippi River to Arkansas, and he was able to accumulate by working hard some finances, and he built a cotton gin and a store. He stayed on that side of the Mississippi River for a while, and then he came over to Tamar, Arkansas, bought some land there, built a cotton gin and a store. The Ku Klux Klan, and that's why I don't mind speaking up because I haven't. My family goes way back with racism. The Klan hired someone to come in and burn our cotton gin and our store.
Mm.
My grandfather built again. They hired and came in and built and burned us out again.
Mm.
The third time my grandfather built, we just couldn't uh, retain it. We built again, but we couldn't. When they got to the third time, they actually couldn't get into the farm because we had hired guards by that time around the parameters of the farm. So they couldn't get in to burn us out. But on a windy night, there was a church right next door, Marzell Church. On a windy night, they set that church on fire so that the embers could blow over and catch our store. And they were successful. They burned us out a
Wow.
third time. We could not rebuild the third time
Mm.
because we were, what you call it, redlined. You know, we didn't redline ourselves. They redlined us. If
Right.
we couldn't get insurance, it wasn't because we couldn't pay. It was because they burned us out and wouldn't give us couldn't get insurance the third
Right.
time. So
Mm.
we have a history. So when they talk about fear, talk about my mom. We will talk about voting, and that's the way to change things. We've got to vote.
Right.
My mother was a teacher, and she would organize or take people to the polls to vote, and they'd provide cards. And she was told by the education department, stop, you cannot do that. If you do, you're going to lose your job. If you're trying to get people to vote, you're going to lose your
Mm-hmm.
job.
Mm-hmm.
My mother put her hand on her hip and she said, good Lord gave me this job, and he will get me another job.
All right.
And she kept right on signing people up and taking them to the polls.
All
And she
right.
didn't lose her job either. But she was that kind of person. You
Right.
don't scare me. You don't frighten me. Right is right. And if
Uh,
it's for me, the good Lord's gonna see that I get it. And if I don't get it, it wasn't for me. I
all
guess
right.
so. Anyway, that's why I'm so adamant about
Mhm.
getting involved and voting, and will forever vote. Will forever vote.
Well, you think about it. Everybody votes. They may. If you don't vote, you voted.
You're right. Absolutely. You
You
gave
have
you
voted.
gave your vote to the other side.
Exactly right. So even if that people say, "Well, I don't vote," whatever the reason, you're voting. You just
Mhm.
didn't know that you are. And
Yes.
we have Gwendolyn. Hi, Gwen. She said over 20 million people are watching the hearing. The ones who need to watch refuse to watch. They
Uh-huh.
want to believe the lie.
Absolutely.
That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
People, when they made up their minds, you can't convince them. It takes a lot to convince people to change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Dr. Dansby Socher. I think you know her.
Yes. Hi.
Happy, happy Monday, all. Good morning, Dr. Dansby Socher. And then she said, Happy Monday. And then here's Sheila said, Wow, about everything we're talking about. She said, Wow. I don't think I missed anyone's comment. I want to make sure I got it right. Okay. And I'm saying all these comments, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm hearing, I tell you the truth from Dr. Henry, really the power is with us.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not, I don't know that we really recognize that yet. That it really is up to us. If we, like you said, voting, you made voting a way of life. And so have we, because my family was from Mississippi, and my mom, she was in the eighth grade when she married my dad of the eighth grade education. My father had a third grade education because he worked in the cotton fields. My entire life, all I've heard was, you're going to college, you're going to get education. I didn't even know what college was.
Mm-hmm.
But that before I could walk, my mother, even when I was little, I remember them saying, "Oh, that girl, she going to college." I remember hearing that.
Uh-huh.
They had never, think about this. They had never set foot on a college campus in their lives, but they knew it had to be better than what they had.
The value of
They
education.
wanted that education for their children.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they didn't have it, they wanted it for us so bad. And I look back on how important it was to them. The one thing with my mother and I graduated from high school at the same time.
Huh.
She said she couldn't bear the thought of having a daughter with a high school education, and she didn't even have a high school education.
That's
So,
interesting because my mom and my sister graduated from college the same time.
see, it
Yeah.
means a lot.
Same day, same year.
Same day. We did the same day also.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing,
Wow.
because my mother was 16 years older than I was.
Mm-hmm.
So here she is in her 32, and I'm 16 or so. I mean, I remember thinking, no, I take that back. So I was 18. So she was 36. And she said that was so important for her that that we both had high school diplomas. She said from that time, she's passed on now, unfortunately, but those lessons of the importance of an education, the importance of being able to function at a high level in society was so important to them. The day I received my master's, my dad was walking across the football field, and my mother said, "Go get your father out the clouds." I said, "Mom," she said, because he was so proud
Uh,
of
uh,
that. But we're gonna get back to the subject at hand. But I see the comments coming in. Uh, Dr. Dansby Socher says, "Dr. Henry, it's good to see you." That's what she
good.
said.
Hi. Oh,
Yeah. We have Richard Nichols. He says, "How do we get young people and young adults to realize voting is important? When you don't vote, you are voting for the other team."
I don't know how to even. I don't even know how to cut this off.
Don't worry, Doctor. Okay,
It'll stop ringing. Go ahead.
okay. It's
How
so
do?
Richard Darrell Nichols says, "How do we get young people and young adults to realize voting is important? When you don't vote, you are voting for the other team."
That's true.
How do we get there?
Yeah.
Because there's an apathy. I have heard young people say, "Oh, my vote doesn't matter," and they already know who they want to win. All those kind of comments. So what are they telling their children? And see, for us, it was my parents. People died so we could vote. They gave their life so we could vote.
You know, I heard a comment that was refreshing yesterday. They were talking about the shootings. It was a young guy that was being interviewed, and he said that the change that the young people are going to make the difference. The young people are going to go out and vote them out of office, and that was encouraging to me. I thought, here's a young person that says that's the importance of voting, and
Right.
he says we're going to vote them out of office if they don't come.
Wow.
And so all we can do is, I guess, is just continue to try to let them know the importance of it. Our young people, here we go, back to Sunday school. Sure, the
Yes,
school. Where do we get our young people? We have to make sure the parents also are willing to step up and speak about voting.
it's an I can't because my husband and I, when the people are running for office, they stop by the house, and I was telling Oliver, I said, you know why they come by and talk to us? Because they have seen our voting record, and
Mm-hmm.
they know we vote. They
Mm-hmm.
know they're going to come by and talk to us because we are the people that get out and vote. We're the ones, and not only that, we take people with us. We make sure our friends, when we call and check to see, did you vote? Do you know you're supposed to vote today? That all of those things, now they don't know we're calling our friends, but they know, they can see on the roster who votes. They
Uh-huh.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was amazed at how much you can find out about people's voting history and those that care enough to go vote,
Hmm.
those that are registered to vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It is amazing. But you care about it because of your family history, and I care about it because of our family history.
Right, right, right.
So, how do we get young people to care about it? I think that's what Richard is saying.
Maybe through the youth organizations. Now, like at our school, they talk about voting. We have a voting precinct, in fact, at the Pal Charter Academy.
Okay,
They
yeah.
have the voting machines in there, so we use that whole process as a teaching
Right.
opportunity. So young people at the Pal Center vote. Now
Yes.
they'll go out and convince their parents or the other, friends that are old enough to vote
Hmm.
to cast that ballot. Then that's one. We need to put all these irons in the fire, not just one way, but that's one way we can do it through the schools. We
Right.
can do it if we still have them through the churches, through the youth organizations at the churches.
Well, I
Instead of
know
just
too.
taking them out to, instead of just taking them out to the theme parks, let's
Right.
make sure we take them also to the voting precinct and
I,
stress.
I think, well, I don't think I know. You can register to vote at 16, and that's like you're pre registered. And
Okay.
that's becoming very big too, so that you don't have to wait until you're 18 to register. You can pre-register, so when you turn 18, you're automatically a registered voter.
Hmm.
And that, I feel like anything. I think another thing is when you get your driver's license, you can do voter registration there also. So that the goal is to increase, and I like the fact we receive the ballots in the mail and you can mail it back in as
Yeah.
opposed to having to go in. All of those, anything that can make it. The only thing I notice they haven't done is make it where you can vote online because I think the reason they haven't because that can be manipulated,
Yes. Yes.
and that's the reason.
I would not agree with that one.
Right,
Yeah.
it's that manipulation, but I think it's coming to that. But
Mm.
I know too, as we're not at the end of the conversation, but we're as we near the end of it. What are the steps you think we need to take, other than these hearings, to make sure that January 6th never happens again?
Put some of that behind in jail. Those that they've admitted to committing a crime. It's
Yeah.
a crime against the state. Some of the things that they did.
Yeah.
You know? So try them, put them in jail if you can get enough people to convict them. Then, but they've got to pay for the crime. That's the only way I can see it. That was my recommend. Pay for it. You do the crime, then do the time. Yeah.
I'm seeing, I saw when they put the names up and it said probation for some of them, and I thought, isn't it? Maybe I'm wrong in thinking like this, but I thought that was treason. If you're going against a government,
Mm-hmm.
if I okay, let me use me as an example. If I went and did what they did, would I get probation?
Hmm. Good question. Not
I'm
like.
curious about that. If I
Mhm.
did it, would the judge give me probation?
And I haven't really followed some of those trials to find out what they were actually accused of and what the crime was and what the time they were assigned to. I
Right.
haven't I haven't followed that like I should. I'd like to know more about it
Hmm.
because that you need that deterrent, and so that people know if you do this crime, if you do an insurrection, there's a punishment for that,
Hmm.
you know, and you'll get that punishment. That's the deterrent that I can see.
Well, I can tell you, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I just know I don't think I would get a probation. I
Uh-huh.
could be wrong. I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
It's like, but this
We
is
know what history has proven.
yes,
It's
we
not
do.
just what said. History has proven that we have never gotten a fair shake as far as the law is concerned. You do a crime, you're going to get punished twice the punishment that a white female for the same crime
That's right.
would be punished.
That's right.
I mean that's a matter of fact. That's proven. So I
Hmm.
won't say twice as much, but a bigger crime.
Right. For the
A
same
friend
thing.
of mine wrote, and I'm going to write this. A friend, because they won't publish it. A friend of mine wrote a poem called "Color Up," and in it he was just saying how the history of our people have been when the Klan they used guns. I mean not guns. They used ropes. They used hoods. They used ways of killing our people, of lynching, of keeping us in tow. Now, today, not all, but now they traded in those gowns that they used to wear for
Hmm.
Klan for police uniforms.
Yeah.
The billy clubs have been traded in for guns.
Hmm.
Instead of riding the horses, they're now driving cars,
Hmm.
but it's the same old scenario. Color the set colored up, and that was the name of the whole scenario. Is color up. The color has changed,
Hmm.
but the and the devices have changed, but the mindset is still there.
Oh, it's no. Well, we
Mindset.
don't have to do the studies. They've already done them. They'll tell you um, that just being black, you're going to be stopped so many more times. Just as they call it, driving while black or driving while brown, than
Mm-hmm.
you ever would be if you're a Caucasian. My
Uh-huh.
own children told me they were in cars with their Caucasian friends. The Caucasian friends will be cussing out the officer. They never say one word to them, not one word. And
Uh,
they knew if they did that, they'd have them in handcuffs.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Mhm. And they
yeah,
knew it.
yeah.
So it's how do we, okay, we're talking about something we know. How can we get past all this? Because when I just saw something came across my phone last week, and the gentleman, I don't know who was, I don't know the story, you guys probably do, but he was face down on the ground and the policeman shot him in the head.
Shot him in the bed, in the back of the head. I saw that. Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I know. They did. They're pressing charges on him. You know that it's manslaughter. I think. I forget what the charges were, but I remember thinking, how do you sleep at night from taking someone's life like that? How do you? I just can't. I can't imagine. I can't
And
imagine.
yeah.
He wasn't. He didn't have a gun. I could see the man. He's on the ground, face down.
Face down with his hand behind him. If I remember correctly, he had already had his arm twisted, I believe.
I think somebody videotaped it though.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. And that's the only thing. The new technology, that's the only way some of this is changing, or hopefully will change. It's because it's been going on all of these years.
Yeah.
But now it can be proven. You can see, everybody can see that this is actually taking place. Like where I live. Okay. They the two cases I won't call the towns, but they're up here where I am. They found a African American, a man hanging, okay, from a tree. So then they say that he committed suicide. They found two hangings. One was in two different cities. There were two hangings that have taken place up here, and they said that they committed suicide. I said, we know better. There ain't no black man in this world gonna hang himself from a tree to commit suicide. That we don't commit suicide by hanging ourselves from a tree.
Mhm.
So it is. There's still that hate
Mhm.
that's out there, that's prevalent. and that we got to show it for what it is. We should not let that go by. It's gone. It's gone into the books probably as a
Mhm.
suicide, but we know better, and then we got to show those things too. I don't know how
Mhm.
right now, but
Mhm.
we can't. That is definitely not happening. And no black man going climb up on a. How do you well, he climbed up the tree and then hung him and then let himself fall and killed himself? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. But anyway, don't get me started on
I
that.
know what you're saying. I totally get it. I think what I think our discussion is saying something has to change.
Something has to change. And we need all minds, all people to get together and let's talk it. Let's like today, I was thinking we'd have a discussion. We had some thoughts. So we've got to get together and come up with some ideas.
Right.
There are committees, discussions like this, or whatever discussions that we
Mhm.
have. Got to come up with some ideas and vote. Vote to
Yes.
people out of office that don't see the light, that are determined to keep the evilness going.
Well, I know too. You're talking these midterm elections coming up.
Yes. Yeah.
People have to get out and vote.
Get
You
out.
have to. This is as big as when Obama was president. People, they were gathering people, taking them in cars. Now is another time. Gather people, take them in cars to this election. It is
Got
that's what's on the line here. If that's
and
not
that's,
the
and
case,
that's why in those states where they're saying try and make it a crime to give people water, they don't want us standing in line anymore to vote. They want to cut that
Mhm.
out. Anytime they find that we're successful, then they find a way to try to
But
delimit.
we always figure out another way around it. They're just it's our desire to. I mean, you think about this, the right to vote, and many people don't know in the state of California. I say state of California, it's not around the whole entire country, but I know it's the state of California. If you've committed a felony and you're no longer under state mandate, meaning you're no longer on parole, you no longer are under anytime the state is watching over you or anything like that, you can vote.
Hmm.
You can vote. Even finding that out, people, the one gentleman I'll never forget, because like one time I was doing voter registration, a Latino gentleman, he said to me, he was unloading his car and I was trying to register. He said, no, he was real quiet about it. I knew when he was quiet, I kind of got a little closer. I said, do you have a felony? He said, yes. And I said, are you under parole or probation? He said, no. I looked that man in the eye and I told him, you could vote. It was like literally he said, vote. He was like, he said, I've been reading everything. I know all about every. When I tell you, it was like I just felt like I gave that man a gift.
Wow.
Nobody had ever told him. He
Uh-huh.
was still under the false assumption that he could not vote.
Hmm.
And when he told me that, he saw he couldn't register fast enough because nobody had ever said. He said he had always heard his whole life, if you have a felony, you cannot vote.
With that change in the law, it's not known. We've got to get the word out there.
We have to.
Um,
If you are not under a court order, you're not on parole, you're not on probation, you can vote. That's a fact. State of California, and I
and
know because I did voter registration. So it's like, and I'm amazed. It's literally like I said, that was one gentleman. There's so many people that still are under that false, and it used to be. Now, don't get me wrong, it was like that at one time, but that has changed. But the word is still not out in the community. It is not out in the community. You cannot be on parole. You cannot be on probation. You cannot be under any court order observation. Is what it is. You
maybe
cannot be under that.
write letters to the editor. Wonder if we put some letters in the newspapers. Uh,
We need to do
what
something
leaflets, flyers.
and get that word out and let people know you can vote. That's an entire community
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has been left out of voting, and
Hmm.
they don't know that they can now vote. Now that's not across the country, but I don't know the states I can find. I haven't researched that, but I know it's in California. I
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard that too. Right.
So
I
just so
just
people know.
taken any steps to make sure that information is out there. So that's something. Let's give that some thought. Maybe we can, whether it's letter to the editors, whether it's calling, starting telephone chains.
Okay, well, one thing I may even do a show just on that,
Yeah,
because that is really, it's very important, and
yeah, it
the
is.
numbers of people that have felonies in this country is astronomical.
Uh-huh.
So you want
There's
to,
a big voting block
it
right
is a
there.
huge voting block.
Uh-huh.
But if you don't let people know, then that voting block can't vote.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have to register.
Okay.
You have to register. That's another thing. And because they've been, you remember, you have to not remember, but think, if you've been incarcerated, that's already affected your thinking less than. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna look into voting because you already feel like you've committed a crime against society, because that's really what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Something you did was against our society. So you're not looking to vote. You don't even think you deserve to vote.
Hmm. And
That's
there are
what it
people
is.
out there that done worse than you have, and they're voting.
Thank you, Dr.
And they're so-called leaders of our community too. So
That's true too.
the crimes are worse than what you did. I tell
Yeah,
you.
but we have to get the word out. And I do agree
Yes.
with you. I mean, because that block needs to be notified that you
Uh-huh.
can vote.
Huh.
Hmm. It definitely does. But do you have any final words, Dr. Henry, before we close out our show today?
Oh no, it's been a pleasure, and I thank you for making these opportunities available. For you having the how do we say it, gumption, the guts, having the stamina to want to approach this subject, to bring it out, yeah, to even ask about insurrection, because too many of us are afraid to even bring up these words, to use this terminology. So thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, I was thinking it would be an open discussion. I wasn't even going to show my face.
I know.
As you know, at first I was just going to talk. I wasn't going to show my face. And I thought, why not? You know, so, so I want to thank you for making this available. And hopefully we have touched someone and we'll all start thinking about what we can do. We cannot let the clock go back, folks. Cannot turn the clock back. And that's where we headed if we don't take a stand, if we don't do some things.
Mhm.
Uh, thank you, Gwen. I thank you, my dear. And
Thank you,
let's
Gwen.
get busy. Let's
Yes.
get busy.
And really, the truth is, I think we don't have to do a big thing, but if we all do little things,
Thing. Right, right,
if
right.
you just register, get someone in your family that wasn't previously registered, get
My
them registered.
church has a list. I'm going to send an email. Most of them should vote, but it wouldn't hurt to remind them. So at least whatever my church membership is, and we have a civic action committee,
Hmm.
we can remind them, to remind your family, to remind your neighbors. Then
Right.
look how many you have touched. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that today. I'm going to do that today. And then we do that with our families. We do that with our
Mhm.
organizations. So each person
Yeah,
can take some steps, can do that. Contact your email people and ask them to contact their neighbors and call and whatever and remind people to vote.
I think because I think if it's something big, people feel like they don't have time for big.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you're asking for something small
Few
to
minutes.
make sure everyone just in your circle is
My,
registered to vote,
that's right. And
just
then,
that.
uh-huh,
And
that's
then
right.
that person makes sure everybody in their circle is registered to vote.
Absolutely.
And if someone has a felony and they're not under probation or parole, they can vote.
In fact, I'll put that in my email that I'm sending out to my church members and to my circle of friends.
It makes a
That
difference.
telling it, yeah,
They
that
can
you
vote.
yeah vote.
And
That's
that man, like I said, the man that I'm speaking of, 15 years. Think about this. For 15 years, he didn't know he could vote.
you didn't know. Wow.
And he said every single election, he studied every. Think about what that is. He's studying, knowing he can't vote, but wanting to vote. But
Yeah,
he said, I've studied the way he said it, I know everything. And
that's
he was so just, I mean, his eyes just filled with tears. I can vote?
yes,
Yes, sir, you can vote. So
that's
it
it.
tells you he's not the only one out there.
Yeah, no. Okay, that's what we can do. That's something that we can start the ball rolling.
Yes,
Doing that. Contact our circle of friends to remind them about and ask them to reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make
I
this
will.
world a better place.
And I'll send out an email to that effect too, and let
Yes,
people know if
yes,
you know someone,
yes.
they can register to vote.
Vote. Right.
So, and I'm gonna. We're down to 1 minute, Dr. Henry. So I want to thank you. I
Oh,
want to thank you for your courage and coming on the show today. I know, like I said, I got calls of people saying, "Aren't you
it's
scared? Aren't you?"
hard to believe.
I know. I'm not kidding. Oh no, I got the
Yes.
calls. Aren't you scared? Aren't you afraid? And this, all those things, and obviously, neither one of us are. So
No.
thank you.
And that's why why the evilness keeps going because the good is afraid to step up.
Yeah.
Step up. Step
And
up.
Sheila said, thank you, ladies. You're welcome, Sheila. Thank
Yes,
you
yes.
again. All right,
All
Dr.
right.
Henry,
Thank you.
you're
Bye.
welcome. Bye,
Take
everybody.
care.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
See you next week. All right. Bye bye.
Yes.